Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Autism Stories. I'm your host, Doug Bletcher, the founder of Autism Personal Coach. Autistic people are the true experts of the autistic experience, and Autism Stories is where we interview autistic people to learn from their diverse stories, experiences, and get their insights. If you'd like to be notified about each week's episode of Autism Stories, we suggest you subscribe on your favorite podcast listening platform. On today's episode, Mo Wilson joins us to discuss how yoga is for everyone. We hope you enjoy today's conversation. Mo, thanks so much for joining me here on Autism Stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd love to start out and learn, where does your story in the autistic community begin?
I would say it began when I wrote an article for Neuroplastic talking about how I might be autistic and the implications for me. I would say that's when it started.
Now, you've been a yoga teacher for more than a decade. I read where you said that yoga is for everybody and that yoga is one of the ways everyone can recharge physically and mentally. Why do you think for some people that maybe have tried yoga that didn't think it was for them?
I think especially in the West, a lot of yoga is presented as an option for fitness. And a lot of the studios and the people who teach yoga are actually coming from a fitness, dancer, gymnastic background. And they brought a lot of the toxic culture from those sports and activities with them. So it's hard for people who not from an athletic background or people in different bodies to go into those spaces and feel like it's for them and feel that what's being taught is beneficial to them, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Now, I love yoga. I do it every day at home, but in particular, as I've gotten older, when my sensory system gets dysregulated, this happened last night, I try to do yoga as it's one of the main things, one of the most accessible things that helps to regulate me. How do you look at yoga in terms of being a regulating tool?
I feel if we look at yoga philosophy, that's what it's always been, a regulating tool, something to help you shut out all of the distractions of the world and come back to yourself. I feel like when we're dysregulated, a lot of the time it's because of too much sensory input, overwhelming sensory input. And I feel like at its core that yoga is something that helps us to regulate sensory input and know what we want to prioritize in our life and what we want to just ignore, keep out, and to take us back to what who we are at the core of ourselves and our true self. That's why I think all of the practices important because they help you slow down, quiet down, and that's what helps people regulate their emotions, their sensory system, their nervous system.
Now, one of the aspects of yoga that I think is most helpful is breath work. I know there's lots of different breath work techniques, but when you're teaching yoga, what are some of the things you emphasize about breathing or the importance of breathing?
I think that breath work is also one of the most important. It's one of my go-tos. But every time people tell me what's my favorite thing to practice or what's been most helpful to me, and I say breath work, they look at me and they're like, "And what else?" Because it's like I feel a lot of people don't really see the importance of breath work. And now I've forgotten what you asked because I was rambling. Yes, okay, I remember. So I think that personally, as a teacher, what I think is most important for people is breath awareness. I think a lot of people go through life without being aware of their breath, without taking time to notice how they're breathing. So they might be breathing shallow breaths, quick shallow breaths, and not even realize it. So I like to teach people breath awareness. How are you breathing right now? And then when people have connected with that, then I like to teach them how to manipulate the breath so they can start to observe how different types of breathing affect their body, affect their mind, affect their emotions. And that's when people get to a place where they have the power to choose how to breathe based on the situation they're in to help them regulate. And breath awareness is not something that's easy to teach to a lot of groups of people because not everyone has the what you call it perioception to
Mhm.
be aware of what's going on in their body. And so even adults, I teach the same way I teach kids, blowing bubbles, blowing some tissue, blowing a piece of paper, putting your hand in front of your face to feel your breath so that they can have some like outside awareness of that breath if they struggle with it. But breath awareness, 100%. You cannot ever get me to stop talking about breath awareness because as much as it's nice to say I can do box breath, I can do four part breath, I can do breath elongation, I can do bellows breath, shining skull breath. As much as it's important to understand this in the context of traditional yoga, it doesn't help if you don't understand how to notice how you're breathing and how that's affecting your emotions in your body.
I find that super helpful what you just talked about breath awareness because I know with my interoception differences, oftentimes,
That's what I was looking for, interoception.
yeah, I find that I forget that it, you know, particularly when I'm dysregulated, but just in general, the executive functioning component of remembering that as humans, breathing is a pretty important thing for us to do.
Yeah, I feel like it's so important and often overlooked. People will talk about their pose they can do or how long they can meditate, but they'll just skip over the breathing.
Now, something that I hadn't heard about until recently was bed yoga. You are recently had a 2 week bed yoga wellness challenge that you created. Why was it important for you to create this, and what was involved in your bed yoga challenge?
Well, I think so often, well, first of all, we all can agree that it's important for everyone to move their bodies to maintain some sense of wellness in terms of like flexibility, strength, and that sort of. I feel like in today's culture, everyone is like, when they say move your bodies, they mean go on a treadmill, go for a run, go to the gym for 2 hours, lift this much weight, tone your muscles, look this way. However, with all of that being said, they're always telling people acting like disabled people can exercise away their disability or chronically ill people can exercise away chronic illness, which which obviously they can't. But also people who chronically ill, disabled, wheelchair bound people, bed bound people have the desire to move their bodies in order to feel better in their body, not just for like health and wellness, fitness, that's it. Just because we know that when we move our bodies, we feel better. But if you're stuck in bed, you can't always move your body in the way that society tells you you should for it to count as exercise. So I wanted to show people that even though you're just stuck in bed, you can find a movement that works for you in your given situation. So each day I shared one pose that you could stack on the other one the day before to make a little routine. And I included some yoga philosophy, some little breathing. Every video was about 5 minutes long, so it didn't take too much time. And it was delivered to people's email inbox, and you could just watch it for a little long, do it in different parts, and I gave little tips on how to incorporate it into your day. But I wanted people to know if you're stuck in your bed and you wanna move, you wanna exercise, here's how you can do it.
I love that because I think universal design is really critical. And I'm wondering, just being able to, as many people as possible to access something. How do you kind of look at yoga right now in its ability to be accessible to as many people as possible?
Well, if we're going to talk about that, we have to first admit that in the West, yoga has been colonized to a point where people think if they say the pose names in Sanskrit that they're doing enough to honor the roots of yoga. But I think we honor the roots of yoga by making it accessible. And one of the ways we can make it accessible is by, what's the word? Modifying it so it meets the needs of the people who are attending. So we keep it accessible by showing people how they can do it, because the yoga class as we know it, of a bunch of people in a room doing the same poses, is a relatively new thing. Yoga was always meant to be personalized. That's the word I'm looking for. To be personalized to the person practicing it, and to change things in a way that work for their body and whatever situation they were in that day. So I think a lot of modern yoga is about the right outfit, the right gear, the right new shake or smoothie, and that turns people off. Whereas, but somehow that's what's popular. Whereas it's harder to find the people who are out there doing teaching, for example, a mixed level class. If someone comes to your class and they need to be in a chair, a lot of people would rather just not accommodate that person than have someone in a chair practice along someone who is not chair.
Now, thinking about bed yoga or chair yoga, I think these types of yoga practices, as we were talking about accessibility, make it more accessible to more people. So, in thinking about that and thinking about community, your Instagram handle is Community Care Wellness. When you think about community care and wellness, what are some of the most critical elements you do think about?
From the very first, before I even went for my yoga teacher training, when I was young and ambitious, I wanted to do yoga in a way that enriched my community. People talk a lot about enriching rural life. As someone who was born and raised in a small rural community, I think it's important for people there to have the same access to cultural activities that people in the city usually have access to. So it's all from the very beginning. It's always me teaching yoga has always been about the community. I've taught a lot of free yoga to the elderly and to children in schools. And so I when I came back to social media after taking a break, I wanted to really embody what I wanted to do in my business instead of following the trends of telling people if we come together, we can be better. So for me, community care and wellness is about helping each other in the way we can, and also about meeting people where they are. So right now, I'm launching a program where I'm asking people in the community to sponsor other people in the community so that I can do yoga with them. Here in St. Lucia, in my little village, I'm going to the elderly and disabled people who are housebound to their house and doing yoga with them for a little while. And sometimes when I go over there, it means that I have to sit and have a little chat with them because we've become so separated and distant as a society that people miss the people just having little chats. But I also wanted to extend it to the wider community where people overseas who are also housebound can do yoga with me virtually one on one, and they can then have the benefits of movement. So So yeah, so community care wellness to me means other people helping each other in terms of me doing what I can, which is help people create a movement program that works for them. But I also hope it includes other people on their own deciding maybe they want to cook a meal for a neighbor. Maybe they will run an errand for someone who cannot do it. That sort of thing.
And how can our listeners learn more about you and your yoga beyond this interview?
You can find me on social media. Community Cares Wellness is the handle I use on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can find me on YouTube. The channel is called Accessible Yoga Movement, and you can check out my main website, monetawilson.com, or my other website, communitycareswellness.com.
Well, Mo, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining me here on Autism Stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much to Mo for the conversation. To learn more about Mo, please check out the link in the podcast description for this episode. We always love hearing from you and would especially love to hear from you regarding how do you feel breath mindfulness could impact your life and help you regulate through all different types of experiences. Did you know Autism Personal Coach provides neurodiversity affirming support by autistics for autistics? We empower autistic adults and teens to be the best version of their authentic selves through customized life coaching and community groups. We also support parents and partners of autistic people by providing insights and guidance to bridge communication gaps and nurture mutual understanding. So please visit autismpersonalcoach.com to begin your experience of judgment-free coaching rooted in empathy, expertise, and respect for autistic identity. Until next time, I'm Doug Bletcher of Autism Personal Coach. Talk to you then.